What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Embrace. This is such a full circle moment right now because my beautiful guest today is my dear friend Sara. And for those of you who know, like the OG audience, Sara and I had S2S together back in 2022?
Yeah.
In a little bit of 2023. So super excited to have you on here. We're going to be diving into the power of activating your self-love journey. So Sara, introduce yourself a little bit. Tell us about yourself, about just what you do, your creator side, and just how that's brought up a light in you.
Hey guys. I feel like it's been such a long time since I've actually done a podcast. I think our podcast was our last podcast together. But yeah, my name is Sara. I am a content creator based in Boston, and originally I was a registered nurse and decided to take a pivot in my career at the ripe age of 26. And I do content really just like about like healing and self-love and beauty and fashion and just like all the ways that you can show yourself love, I would say. Yeah, and I've been enjoying it. I think it's been a year and some change, a year and like 4 or 5 months on this journey full time, and it's been amazing. Definitely a lot of challenges, definitely a different dynamic than being an entrepreneur and finding your way through that. So yeah, happy to follow in Sara's footsteps as being an entrepreneur.
Oh, thank you. No, but honestly, like, I feel like being a creator, being a content creator is a whole nother territory that I think, like, even just me, like, I don't really consider myself a content creator, even though, like, I post content, but it's in a different capacity, right? Like, you're here, like, truly, like, doing the game of creating, of editing, of putting in, like, your spice into it, like your personality, your character into your content. But like, I feel like people from the outside watch it and it's like, oh, that seems fun. Like, that's so cute and fun to like record content and edit it. But it's like, no, like it will drag. I mean, I think any journey, like any entrepreneurial journey will do that for you. But I feel like when it comes to content, like you are the face, like you are the image, and it's the things that you're doing in your content that brings out creativity. But I'm sure that brings out so much insecurity, so many stories, so many limiting beliefs. So like the fact that you chose to pivot at such like, and honestly, like 26 is fucking young. Like 26 is an age where it's like we're kind of figuring it out. Like we've kind of felt like we figured it out, especially like our brain isn't fully developed until the age of 25. So 26 is like, okay, now we're actually like making decisions that like we're in a space where we're probably eligible enough to make those decisions. So yeah, like obviously kind of like the topic, right? It's the power of activating your self-love journey. So I'm sure, like, where do you feel like that pivotal point for you like happened in your self-love journey when it came to being a content creator? Like how did the meaning of self-love really evolve for you before making that jump from nursing to content creation? And now it's been over a year since you've been doing it full time. So I'm sure like over time it has evolved so much, but where do you feel like it started? Like what did self-love mean to you before versus like now that you've been in a true journey with yourself?
Yeah. So, I would say like, I feel like we all in some capacity are on a self-love journey, whether you've actively started it or haven't started it. But I do remember like it starting for me, or like me consciously like doing it, was back in like probably like a little bit after high school. And I started like working out and just, I don't know, maybe I had started working out for all the wrong reasons. And through that journey, I found a self-love journey. But before that, it was more so like, oh, I'm taking care of my body. I'm eating all the right things. I'm, doing my skincare. I'm doing like all that stuff. And throughout that journey, I realized like, just through like my fitness journey, I realized that it's a little bit more than that, because you can lose the weight, you can do all of these things, but if you don't love yourself when you get to your goal weight or get to your goal thing, like you're gonna be unsatisfied. And so I had gotten to like, I think the smallest I had ever been in my life, and realized I wasn't entirely happy. I was striving for more. And then like, you know, I kind of like fell back into like that. It was like a yo-yo with like my fitness. And I think it was even through you, I wanted to, in 2022, at the beginning of 2022, I said, okay, I'm going to restart or continue my fitness journey to weight loss, because I did want to lose weight, but I wanted to do it a different way. I wanted to love myself throughout the process, throughout, regardless of like where I just wanted to love myself where I was, while also trying to improve myself. And I think that in June, that's when I like found you and I found your community. And like, I feel like that even deepened it more because of like your program, and realizing like, oh, okay, like it's more than just wanting to lose weight. It's more than just doing my skincare. It's more than just, you know, it was more so like internal, like on the inside, and then you'll see it on the outside. And I think just like being around all of that energy and being around all those women who were, you know, have the same mindset, I started to really question in my life. I think at the same time I had finished my RN, I started to really question in my life, like, what is it that I really wanted? And it made me question things about, okay, like, do I want to be a nurse? Like, is this what I want to do for the rest of my life? Because I was craving that more creativity, like creative side. And so I dived into the podcast with you. And like, I felt like this spark that I had felt when I was a kid, singing and dancing and just creating and, you know, being on camera. And I realized like, oh shoot, like I spent all this time, you know, getting this RN degree, and I don't actually really want to be a nurse, or at least I wanted to dive more into like my creative side. And you know, a lot with that came with you know, backlash from like my family, like saying like, oh, like, you know, I don't know, like that you can't make a career out of that, or, you know, just like the typical, like, that's not a career. And I think at that point I had to choose myself or continue choosing what other people were choosing for me. And I feel like that really, when I finally decided, like going into 2023, I was like, no, I'm doing this. Like, I kind of just quit my career. My job, I had gotten fired at the time, but I quit my career and everything. And I was like, okay, like we're really doing this. I feel like that really sparked my self-love journey even more, because I was finally choosing something that I wanted to do, like since I was a little kid, and allowed other people's opinions to not allow me to do that. So yeah.
Yeah, no, there is so much to unpack there. And I feel like just the timeline of it, like how things evolve, just it all kind of comes full circle. And I think kind of like you said, like it started with you wanting to like start with your fitness journey and lose weight. And now it's like, okay, well, I'm fixing myself. Like we're like, I always like to break self-love or just like our self journey into two parts. It's like self-improvement and then self-healing. And self-improvement is where we're focusing on fitness, like we're changing our body, we're changing our habits. But to your point, it's like, okay, I was chasing something, but I still wasn't happy. Like it's all the surface level things. It's everything that's just on the surface of what you see on a day-to-day. It's like you can look in the mirror and be a different body, be a different size, but how you actually feel internally, like none of that changes when you're just getting in the gym and losing weight, right? So it's like, then you restarted it and it's like, okay, I'm like not doing this to, of course, like the goal, the byproduct of diving deeper is to also lose weight and to feel confident in my body, but we're doing it with the focus being the internal. Like, how am I feeling? What do I need to face? What do I need to heal within myself? And like you said, like finding a community of women or like being in a space where I think other people are also in that same path. It's like, we don't necessarily love where we're at physically, but that isn't going to change, or that's not really going to solve anything until you do the internal work. And it sounded like, you know, you had that realization, right? Like you had the realization at the beginning of 2022 where it's like, okay, like I need to continue this journey, but in a different capacity. Like I'm approaching it in a completely different way. But getting fired and like also making the simultaneous decision to not continue or to also quit, like that's the moment where self-love really kicked in for you. Because it's like, okay, like I know I want to be creative. I know I want to dive into this content thing. Like I know I want to do this full time. Like what actually lights a fire in me? Like what am I passionate about? And it's you being expressive. It's you allowing your creativity to flow through content creation. Obviously, nursing isn't going to allow for that. Like it's going to, if anything, suppress that side of you, or like you're being put under a microscope, and like it's almost like someone has a thumb over you. It's like, this is what you're doing, this is what you're here for, and like your opinion, your values, your boundaries do not matter. Your creativity does not matter here, because like this is the box that you're in. And then it's like you leave, and then that's when you're able to really be like, okay, like I'm not in that environment anymore. How can I be expressive now? But that moment of like, okay, I just got fired, but I'm also quitting because I'm not going to continue doing this. And I'm making the conscious decision to go full time and full force into this content creation. That was the moment of self-love for you, because you chose yourself. Like you chose to follow your path. You chose to follow what your heart was calling you to do in your soul, not just what your family thinks is right or what society wants to make you feel is right. It's like, as uncomfortable as the journey I'm sure has been, you're still choosing yourself in the process, and you're still here and you're still posting content. And I do want to also bring up, because obviously I've followed you since you started, or even I think before, since you went full time. But in this whole journey of like, not journey necessarily, but like obviously everything that's happening in Gaza and just like all of these things happening in the world, no big time creator talks about that. Like even the ones that I love and I look up to and still follow, because I'm like, but I really love your realness, but you're not talking about things that because you have the platform, right? And you are still here like showing up, doing content, and maybe you're not over here with like millions of followers, but you're talking about something and using your platform where people connect with you. You have an audience, like you're building that community, whether it feels like it or not. Like as a consumer, like I'm watching your stuff, I'm keeping up with your stuff too. So it's like you definitely have those people, but it's like using a platform where you're not just posting the content that you want to create and that you want to be like aesthetic. It's like you're talking about the things that are passionate to you. And that again is an act of self-love. Like you're not just following the trends. You're not just following like what you feel like consumers want to see. It's like, well, this is what I want to create. This is what I want to post about. This is what I feel called to post about. And now I'm doing that. And I think even with myself, with content that I post, like I've had times where it's like, oh, this is what I want to post, but instead I'm going to post this because I feel like this is what people want to see. Yeah. And it's like, we have that battle of self-love when it's like, we're almost going against what we feel really aligned with because we want to feel accepted and we want to feel validated by the audience. So I'm sure that battle has really come up for you many, many times. And
talk about that just
yes,
a bit.
Yeah,
okay, because that I feel like this is where I'm currently, and I feel like if you do follow me on social media, like I think you can kind of see, I don't know if like from your perspective as a consumer, you can see me kind of battling myself. I'm constantly saying like, oh, I kind of want to go in a different direction with my content here, or even with like the thing that happened with Gaza. Like I realized I was just posting kind of things like very superficial, and I started to realize I'm like, oh shoot, this is like not me. And I feel like in the content creating journey, that's something that I'm constantly battling, because you have to be grounded in who you are so that that shines through your content. Otherwise you're going to be doing things by the trend. And I feel like sometimes I come on the internet and I cry. Okay, y'all, I come on the internet and I cry. And I'm trying to accept that part of myself too, because I feel like that's what makes my content authentic, because I'm not hype. I'm saying a lot of things that a lot of people want to say and can't say. So yeah, I just wanted to like put that, like I do battle with like that part, and I feel like I'm constantly switching up my content. I'm like, oh my God, like how's my audience going to like react to this? Because like she's doing this and she's doing this, she's doing this. But I think also I have to remember that my audience that truly cares for me is on the journey with me and not just like expecting me to be perfect, you know?
Mm-hmm. No, for sure. And I feel like one, it just makes you that much more human, and that much more of someone who's not just posting like the highlights and the aesthetics for you to feel like, okay, is my content messy? Because it's like, I want to change things up, but then I'm also talking about certain things like what, how am I being perceived, right? But something that that came up for me as you were talking about that is like, when I think of like the big time content creators that I follow, like the ones that I actually do keep up with are the ones that post about everything. Like, yeah, they have like very aesthetic and very like trendy and just, I don't even know the word that I'm looking for, but just like the content that like you just like it hooks you, like you're here and you're watching it and it's just like something that really buys you in. But they're also posting like the shit that they're going through, like Monet McMichael. Like I love some of her stuff because it's like she posts like the like greatest looking content, but she still also will share, like I know she's been sharing her fitness journey about like how she's struggling, like, yeah, I'm feeling discouraged, like I've been doing this, scale hasn't moved, like stuff like that. And like I know you post a lot about your fitness journey too. So it's like I feel like the content creators that do what doesn't matter how many followers, doesn't matter about the views, but the ones that like have a connection with their audience are the ones that are posting about the stuff that you like almost want to cringe about, like when you're talking about, but like that's a part of you. And I think kind of like going back to like the things that I really am passionate about, like when it comes to your spiritual journey, your mindset journey, your self-healing journey, like this is a part of you also healing parts of yourself. Like you're using your career, you're using the thing that you do that's also a passion for you. And that's healing in itself. Like, cause you're sharing yourself, like you are the brand, you are the face, but you're also sharing the things like on the moments that you're crying on camera, you're being vulnerable, you're sharing the things that everybody feels, but not everyone is going to publicly talk about. Like you're giving those parts of you a voice and you're giving them a chance to shed light on the things that like maybe we judge or we shame or we like tend to isolate from other people. So I feel like as like hard as it feels sometimes, or maybe it's like you go back like after posting something that's like, oh my God, why did I just post that? Like, why did I just do that? Like,
I don't even look at half the content I post, honestly.
Yeah.
Like
otherwise you like just question yourself. You're like, oh my God, like I can't believe I actually posted that. But it's like the people who need to see it are going to see it. And you're also just, that's a part of you being authentic to you. It's like, this is what I'm feeling. I am human. Like content creators at the end of the day, no matter how perfect their page looks, like they're regular human beings, whether they show the normalcy or not. Like that's the thing I feel like about content creation and social media is like you want it to be perfect and aesthetic, but at the end of the day, like, is life perfect and aesthetic? Absolutely not. And I've almost turned away from the people that don't post anything outside of just like their niche, because it's like, but who are you? Because I will find myself as a consumer, I find myself wanting to change parts of my routine and my lifestyle because I'm watching this person and I'm like, wow, look at how like just perfect and aesthetic their life is. Like I want to feel that way. And then that's the moment where I'm like, but that's not real. Like I don't see, how they're actually waking up in the morning and how they're transitioning throughout their day. Like they're just posting this one part of their routine morning and night and it looks so perfect, but what's happening in between? So you like almost find yourself wanting to change who you are because you don't feel like you're perfect enough, aesthetic enough. So yeah, I feel like that's a really important thing to talk about. And something too that I think is really important to shed light on is, obviously you like from the outside in, right? Like if I didn't know who you were and I kept up with your content and the fact that you talk a lot about quitting your nursing job to be a full-time content creator, and then like your content is really fun and just like I don't even know the word, like I keep blanking on my words, but it just hooks you, like you want to keep watching like the transitions and everything, right? But if I didn't know you, I would think like, wow, she quit her nursing job and now she's a full-time content creator. Like, look at her life. Like she's in Boston going to these events and like getting dressed up and doing these makeup things. Like, oh my God, like her, like that just must have been like such a beautiful transition for her. Like she must love her life. But again, like I think people don't fail to realize that just because you're on a self-love journey or just because you end up choosing a path that you feel passionate about doesn't mean that comes with it doesn't come with its own battles and its own struggles. So that's what I want to get into is obviously like the power of you activating your self-love journey has gotten you to a place where you are more authentically you. Like you're allowing yourself to express. Like that inner child in you loved singing, dancing, expressing, creating, like being an artist, and you're allowing that version of you to really shine through being a content creator. However, like it still comes with its battles. Like you're still going to have like a lot of shadows and a lot of parts of you that need healing, that like just any journey, doesn't matter if you're a content creator or still in nursing, like you would still have to heal through, or not necessarily have to, but it's going to be triggered, right? So where you are in your journey right now, like if you're going through something that you feel like you're questioning yourself, like should I even continue doing this, or just whatever triggers have come up in your journey, like what level of self-love do you feel like you're at with the work that you've done, with all the awareness and the acknowledgement that you've given yourself in those parts of you? Like, where do you feel like you are right now, despite like the goods, like the highs and the lows that you're going through?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I'm actually kind of glad you're bringing this up, because I don't think I've sat with myself and asked myself that, because lately I have been having like a lot of doubts and kind of, been talking negatively to myself, thinking and kind of like just comparing myself, and I do feel like I love myself, I wouldn't say completely unconditionally, because there are times where I do, kind of dim my own light, like you said, because I want to show up as, perfect, right? And I do love myself, and I feel like I'm falling into this, I don't know how to say it. Like I'm falling into this part where I need to kind of pick myself back up again and kind of, remind myself. There we go. Kind of remind myself of like how far I have come. And I say that I do still love myself and embrace myself, because I'm still trying. I'm still, recognizing like, hey, Sarah, like you need to pick yourself back up. And I am still, I'm just still trying, and I'm fighting for like what it is that I truly like want. And I feel like, and setting those boundaries in my life where they need to be. So I would say that I still love myself, but they're just like, I think like any relationship or anything, there are parts that need to be worked on a little bit more,
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't mean that you don't love the other person or you don't love yourself, what I'm saying, but it just means that you just need a little bit more work on that part of yourself. So I feel like I do love myself. I wouldn't be doing this. I wouldn't be trying. I wouldn't, be setting the boundaries and going through the hurts and sitting through things that, aren't for me, and that hurt if I didn't love myself,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And like you said, like the fact that you're still holding yourself through like questioning things is an act of self-love in itself, right? Like if you didn't love yourself, if you still kind of held yourself under conditions, you probably wouldn't be setting the boundaries or making the decisions or like holding the space for you to just like be with yourself if you didn't. Like something that I love to say about unconditional love too, which I think anyone that's on a self-healing journey, self-improvement journey, self-love journey, like the ultimate goal is unconditional love. And the way I like to posture that is like through the messiness, through the chaos, you're still holding yourself rather than running away. Like you're not loving yourself under conditions. So when it comes down to like kind of looking at how your self-love journey has evolved, and before you really started to dive into like the really intentional work with like meditating, journaling, and just like being with yourself, like, in the past, what do you feel like the difference has been when it comes to loving yourself under conditions? Excuse me. Oh my God. Loving yourself under conditions versus like making the conscious decision to go deeper. It's like, when did you realize like, okay, I'm actually loving myself conditionally and I need to now like take this further? Because it's like, if I choose to just like sulk, if I choose to just run away and avoid, like this isn't going to go away. So what was like that pivotal moment for you? And maybe you've had many, but what's one that maybe stands out?
I think the one that's impacted me the most in 2022, like when I started that journey and said like, and I also had like just moved out too. So it was like a space where I was in my own space. And I think what initially, even before that, was my I could not keep going down the path I was going because it was affecting the most important relationship in my life for me. And I realized, which is like, my significant other, and I realized that there's only so much like one person can lift you up, so you have to make the decision to lift yourself up. Yeah, it's okay to have like help too, but like they cannot carry you. And I think once I realized that, I think I remember talking to my sister about this, and I was sitting on the couch and I was like, Destiny, I think I need to like actually love myself. Like I think I need to like really start diving deep, especially because now I have like this, I had moved out and I had entered this space where I had this space to do so. And I wasn't in just like my little room. I had this whole space to do so. And that's what I think initially started my fitness journey, and this journey that is continuing.
Yeah, yeah. And like, I think that's a really good example of like being codependent, right? It's like you kind of depend on someone else to lift you up, to hold you, to heal you, to make you feel good. But it's like really hard putting that responsibility on someone else. Like, no matter how much they do love you, like usually, especially in your relationship, it's like if you have a partner that loves you so unconditionally, like will be there through thick and thin, will like carry 90% of the weight when you can only give 10, like that is truly like an ideal relationship that you want to have. However, like it's never going to change anything within you. Like if someone else is carrying that weight for you, carrying that love for you, but you don't have it for yourself, like you're only going to be able to love that person as much as you love yourself. And like you said, like right before that moment in 2022, when you realize like, okay, like where I am right now is affecting one of the most important relationships in my life. Like I physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually cannot be here anymore. Like I cannot be in this energy that I'm in. So I think that right there is truly what shadow work even is too. Like I love shadow work and I love just the power of it. And it all goes back to self-love, because like when you face a version of you or a part of you that you feel like you just can't live with, you cannot stand, you feel like you hold a lot of judgment for, or you just know that it's holding you back, the moment you're like, okay, I physically cannot be in this state because it's just holding me back so much. And then you're like, okay, like I actually need to achieve self-love. Like I actually need to be able to face myself in a way that isn't trying to change or fix me, but I'm just trying to heal and accept myself so I can then improve. And I think like that was a really powerful moment for you to be like, okay, this person loves me, but I need to love myself first for me to be able to accept that love. So I appreciate you sharing that, because I know that's a really tough thing for a lot of people to really be open about, is like the codependency on someone else, or always feeling like they need to have someone to kind of fill the void that we don't know how to give ourselves. Yeah. So that is huge. So kind of pivoting to as well, because I feel like self-love definitely comes down to self-healing and accepting and detaching and letting go and realizing like you never had to fix anything about yourself. Like you needed to realize that you just were never broken, right? But it's also about detaching from the parts of you that have controlled you. And kind of like the image that I like to use is like an iceberg. Like above the surface is like your conscious mind, it's your free will, it's where we want our energy to go. But below the surface is our trauma, our triggers, our subconscious mind, our limiting beliefs. And that, unless that goes resolved, like unless we start digging in and actually processing those things, that is what's going to control your destiny. That is what's going to control your decisions. So it's really about like breaking through the surface and having more capacity to be in your conscious mind, to make conscious decisions. So again, like it's all about self-healing and detaching, but it's also about having fun with the process and being playful. Like I think a big thing about this journey is it's really fun and cute to like be like, yeah, I'm gonna love myself, but it gets dark too, right? but to not be so consumed in the darkness, how can you be playful with it? So like, what are some of your favorite acts of self-love, or just like things that you love to do outside of just like the healing journey that have really impacted your relationship with yourself, that has like really created this like relationship where you feel comfortable, where you feel content in your own solitude, or even just things that allow you to feel like confident and secure in who you are?
Yeah, so I am kind of digging deep into that. That's actually like one thing that I have on my vision board, is to discover that a little bit more, because like my whole life was consumed by nursing, and now my whole life is consumed by content creating. I'm like, okay, so like outside of those things, where do I find like, peace, solitude? And I like to like sing on my little mic every once in a while,
I love those moments. We need more of that.
And I also like to pour a lot of I used to do a lot of poetry. So I like to like write poetry about like how I'm feeling, because a lot of times like I have a hard time vocalizing like, that part of myself. And I don't know, I feel like I'm still like kind of discovering that a little bit. I definitely want to try and get into like pottery, and allowing myself to be like messy, but also like food. I just like, without like, thinking about like all the macros and stuff that I need to eat. I really enjoy food. Like I really bond around like good food, new food, soul food, like, and allowing myself to like do that. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that answered your question, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, like you're kind of in the self-discovery part of like, what do I enjoy? And I love that you brought up like a lot of different artistic outlets, like singing, poetry, pottery. Like those are all ways that like you're not focused on time, and you're not focused. Well, I'm sure like when you're singing and stuff like that, you're like, oh my God, I need to do this again. Like that didn't sound good enough. Or I'm sure it like breaks
through like a creative process.
Yeah. And it's like, it's a way to express yourself. It's a way to just like not necessarily, like you're not making content and editing it so it looks a certain way. Like you're just expressing. And I think that's a really good way to practice self-love and to practice being in your own energy. Cause it's like, damn, like you might hit a note that you haven't hit in a while because you're just so in your own energy. Or same thing with like poetry. Like you might like start flowing and just not even be consciously thinking about like what you're writing. It's just coming out. And then pottery, like it's so funny that you say that, because someone else just recently said like they want to get into pottery, and I've been thinking of getting into painting. Not that I'm a painter at all, but I did one paint and sip night, and I was like, I think I need to get into painting, because it's just like, one, I realized that I critique myself a lot. Like I'm trying to be Picasso, and I'm like, okay, I kind of want to force myself to get into painting. One, because it's such a good way to just get lost in time. Like you're not paying attention to time, or you're not like scrolling, you're not watching TV. It's like it's just you in the painting. But I also want to like detach from my inner perfectionist and the version of me that is like, this looks horrible, like I have to like undo it or redo it. It's like, well, how can you shift it? And art is supposed to be messy, and like you're supposed to interpret it however you want to interpret it. But to kind of close off too, I love this conversation, was beautiful, and I feel like we shed light on so many things that so many women need to hear. I think especially it's 2024, and I think we're pretty still like new into the new year, and I think every single year we find ourselves in this cycle, like towards the end of the year, it's like, oh, I just feel like the energy going into this new year is just, it's gonna hit, it's gonna be different. And then for a lot of people, like sometimes they do feel that way, and sometimes they're like, yeah, it's just like, it's really giving 2023. It's like really giving 2022 right now in this year. And I think whatever's happening in the universe and how the stars are aligning right now, like we're currently in an era of what needs to be healed within you is really coming to the surface, and like those mirrors are being placed in front of you. So with you being on the Embrace podcast, how are you embracing your journey currently right now?
I feel like I'm on so many journeys. But I think a lot that has been coming up for me is just waiting, like just allowing being that, like you said, I'm very critical of myself. I am a very like planned perfectionist. And I think that I'm just allowing myself to like be and just allow myself to wait, be patient, and not rush everything. So, yeah, and kind of just accepting all the things that come with it, rather than saying no, it's supposed to be this way, it's supposed to be this way, And I think I'm hitting a wall where I can no longer continue to plan every step. So yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like it's deepening or like softening more into what surrendering really does look like and feel like. And I love that you bring that up too, because I think a lot of times like we're in a journey where, we want to trust the process, but like there's still that part of us that like wants to control and wants things to work out and wants it to be perfect, but we're still not letting like God's plan unfold, or it's like we're still practicing almost an act of like a lack of faith when we're trying to control things. So it's like it's like you're really embracing like the process of like, okay, like things feel messy, things feel kind of crazy, like, and I'm still trying to control it. So how can I soften into knowing that like I'm being held through the journey? And like my job is just to show up. My job is just to feel what I need to feel and do the things that I need to do and love myself in the process and communicate and like be on a platform like this where you're talking about the parts of you that maybe are hard to share, right? Like I was saying, like it's a part of the healing process when like you're getting on a platform and just sharing parts of you that normally we just keep to ourselves in our journal. Like it's just being able to embrace and give a voice to that version of you. So I love that. And this was, I think, such a eye-opening and like heart-opening conversation that I think a lot of people can get so much and take so much away from. So thank you, Sara, for sharing your art and your expression on this show today. And I think too, it's like, this is such a fun way to kind of come full circle and get back to like what we started. It's like you and I both started podcasting together. And we kind of like went on our own journey. So I love that we were able to kind of just reconnect and get into this space. And I think dive really deep on a topic that like what bred us to us in the first place. It was like truly self-love. So I love that this is what we're talking about. And I know the audience is going to eat this up. So I will leave your Instagram and your TikTok and all your platforms in the show notes. So guys, go ahead and follow Sara, support her. Like her content is beautiful. And I think you post like you're singing like every now and then because your voice is therapeutic, truly. But thank you guys. Yeah, for sure. Is there anything else that you want to leave the audience with too, by the way?
Well, I don't know. Yeah, no. Every time you ask me that question,
I know. It's like putting you on the spot. I mean, you gave a lot. You gave a lot of nuggets, so we appreciate you for that. But thank you so much to everyone that's tuning in. Of course, share this episode if it really resonated with you. Reach out to either one of us if it's something that you feel like you really connected with. We always appreciate that. But as always, I will catch you guys on the next episode.